Welcome LARPers to the LARP Show. My name's Tom Miller, and today we're going to be talking about Comic-Con fundraiser, the Archer Boffers versus Spell Packets debate, Conquest of Mythodia 2013, and of course, why tabletoppers should migrate to LARP. Today joining me is co-founders of LARPing.org, Jordan Gwyther.
Hey guys.
And the main man himself, Dave the Funk Man Funk. Just to let you know, his last name is actually Funk. It just adds a level of awesome to everything he does, because he could just be like, oh, it's so funny. Yeah. It's so scary. That's so scary. Okay, so first off, we'd like to say an absolutely huge thank you to the, how many backers do we have now on the
10 so far.
10 so far. We're sitting at for those of you who don't know, LARPing.org, myself and Dave and Jordan were actually asked if we'd like to come out to Comic-Con to speak on the LARP panel. This is San Diego Comic-Con, not one of the smaller ones. This is the big guy himself. And you know, super excited about this. I can't really think of a bigger opportunity for LARP in general. So we found out literally, what, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that?
Yeah.
Basically, we realized that we were not prepared at all for this. So we set a goal on Indiegogo for $4,000 and basically came to the community to say, hey, can you help us out? And we are, let's see, we're 7 days in, and we're sitting at almost 1/4 of the way. And we've got another 22 days left. So I know, Jordan, you've actually had quite a bit of discussion with people and have been kind of getting the word out. What's the kind of vibe right now that we're seeing from people?
Yeah, I think it's been super positive. One of the most surprising things, and I sent this to our backers just last night, is just the outpour of excitement, enthusiasm. A lot of people coming out and just thanking us for just being a resource to the LARP community, providing good news, providing good resources. And so that's meant a lot to me, just over the last 2 years, working really hard to bring that and seeing that a lot of that to come to fruition. And it's been really cool to see people back us and be excited for us and excited for LARP in general. So so thank you so stinking much that you would just, you know, throw money at us and allow us to go down to San Diego. We promise we're going to do a damn good job.
Absolutely. And I mean, the other thing I guess we should bring up is because some people had some questions about what is this money used for, and basically you got to keep in mind, Dave and Jordan, you guys are both in Seattle, but yep. Myself and Erica, who will be going with us, and she'll be doing some of the press stuff with us while we're out there, we're in Detroit, so we've got a long flight, whereas you guys just have a medium-sized flight.
Yeah.
So we had to take care of that, but also rental car, because we got to get back and forth from the convention, and as well as, you know, hotel rooms, food. I mean, I can eat Hot Pockets the whole time, but no one in that hotel room is going to want to. Yeah, it's going to be bad for everybody. Like, it unhealthy on a special level. So
please directly in toilet.
That's just sad. So yeah, and so we're, again, massive thank you to everybody who has already donated and or will donate. You guys are amazing.
You're incredible.
So,
you're incredible.
Yep. Even my dog in the background is pumped. She even looked over. So that's something. So I think we're gonna go ahead and move on to our first kind of big discussion, debate thing of the day, and that is it was something that we actually had posted by Jordan, one of our writers over at LARPing.org, put up, which is Jordan. Not this Jordan. He's not cool enough to write an article like this. But it is. It is the Archery Boffers versus Spell Packets, and it's the debate that a lot of people have had, which is. And I've talked with Dave about this before the show, and we are on totally different ends, so this is going to be interesting. But it is the discussion that the archery arrow with the foam tip on it used compared to someone with a bow in hand that's all padded throwing a spell packet and it counting as an arrow, and its effects on immersion and how basically everyone is going to see it. So I'm gonna let Jordan open this one up because once we get started, he's not gonna have any discussion in it at all. So
Right.
Jordan, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we've seen
I'll
it
try
go
and
both
moderate
ways.
you guys a little bit so that you guys don't tear each other's virtual heads off.
Yeah, there we go.
I think that I'm probably going to land on your side, Tom. I think I am for real arrows so that it's as real as possible. I won't give away any of Dave's great arguments, but I think that if I'm in the heat of battle and I don't see it coming, and this is just like for me, if I get hit with a spell packet and there's a lot of other people fighting, how in the world am I supposed to know if I get hit by a little bag of rice, it dinks off, even if it hits me somewhere that I don't have like armor on, how do I know if that's an arrow or a spell packet? Then I gotta stop, I gotta look around, I gotta find out what is this, and at that point my immersion's broken, I'm just worrying about functions, whereas if I get hit by a spell packet, okay, bam, I know that's magic. If I get hit by an arrow, then I know it's an arrow. I think so. For me, it's as simple as that. And then I'll let you two kill each other.
Dave, go ahead on this one. I'm gonna let you open up.
Yeah. So first, in my opinion, there's a huge immersion problem with these stupid arrows. Here's the thing. This is what I was saying, and obviously Tom disagrees with me on this. He thinks that I've just been to bad LARPs, but here's my opinion. My problem is this. These stupid arrows have this giant, some of them are bigger than tennis ball sized balls at the end of these things. They have to be put into into the holster, into the holder. Quiver. Put into the quiver, backside in, so the feathers are down in there. So the damn things bobble around. They are horrible. They make a horrible sound. Or they're at the side and they're constantly getting in the way of movement. Also, you have to pull these stupid things front first out, then you have to align them on the thing, and then you have to pull back. And the other thing is this: you can't shoot them fast. You can't load them fast. You can't even really aim them the same way.
Oh, you can though.
You aim like this in order to hit anything directly in front of you. They are crap.
No.
Now, let me say this.
Strangle over the internet. No.
I don't think that the packet is long. I don't know if I believe it's truly better for immersion or worse for immersion. I just don't think they're better. I don't think that they. I feel like they look awkward. They look stupid. They jangle around. They get all caught up. They're hard to manage. And frankly, when it comes to a spell packet, you can carry a lot more of them realistically. That's another problem with these arrows. You can't put very many in a quiver. You can put 5, unless you have like a trash can strapped to your back.
He's got a dumpster. He's just rolling through the woods.
Let me say this. This is what I think honestly should be done. What you should do if you're looking for real immersion, because the arrows aren't real immersion anyways. If you're looking for real immersion with the spell packet, you can shoot as fast as a person can really shoot a bow and arrow, because you have to do the motion still when you throw a packet. But this is what you do. You take a quiver, you take arrows, the ends of arrows, and you just put them in the quiver and throw the spell packet. They look nicer, they sound nicer. In my opinion, that's better overall. And then lastly, these damn arrows are like $18 a piece.
You gotta make them. You gotta make your own ones. You gotta make your own ones.
Insane. Nobody in their right mind should be buying these things.
I think on that, you should pay for quality. Like, you want them to be safe. If you're gonna shoot them, you should buy quality arrows.
You don't drop $100 on 5 arrows. You drop $100.
Oh, and sometimes you could spend more than that. You could drop $250 on 5 arrows. I've seen people spend
Yeah,
ridiculous money, and the sad part is then they get stepped on and they break, and
Yes.
that's when, like, I will completely say, if we're going to talk about financial standpoint of whether or not it's cheaper for you to go spell packets or actual arrows, spell packets are, oh my gosh, I mean, it's not even on the same plane of existence. So
Sure.
I will totally go through there. And there's also the safety argument to be had. And no matter what I try to say when it comes to spell packets versus boffer arrows, it's very clear spell packets are going to be way more safe. There's no doubt. There's no hard piece of metal flying through the air, no matter if you put a tip on it or not. That's still possible that someone could get hurt. Not to mention, I've seen people fall on them, and it can hurt a little bit if you fall on one. I think there are some things that you have to. I guess the LARPs that I go to are a little bit less worried about safety, so it's not as important. But there are people out there who still, require safety goggles at LARPs. Whatever, that's your LARP you go to, cool. So, Dave, your thoughts on safety?
I mean, I think it's very black and white. I mean, the arrows are not safe, really. Not safe, and what I mean by that is, the problem is that you can't, there's not a LARP arrow made. You have to buy a standard arrow shaft.
You actually can buy them.
Really?
Yes.
Where?
They're
Why are they not on our website? Hello.
There is
LARP arrows on our website.
I think we do. Yeah, we have LARP arrows.
Not tipped.
Mhm.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have them.
I thought those are ones that are just jimmied with the ball.
No, they're actually screwed on the same way that your arrowhead, your broadhead, is screwed on to your shaft. These are the same way they're screwed on, so that you can break the shaft, and they're modular, so you can remove the tip and put it on a new arrow. So now, okay, so I'll jump into this because I have played an archer and do, and my fiance Erica, she also plays an archer, and we. And I go as far as if you follow me on Facebook or you follow me on Instagram. Most of you probably don't, because I really don't use it ever. There are photos of actually the bow that I've created and the bows that I do create for LARP, 35 pound, 30 pound, in that range, specifically made for LARP. And if I made those and then I'm forced to throw a spell packet, like, I'm just sad to begin with. But I'll start off with the cost part of it. If you go to a craft store, you can buy dowel rods, and you actually can make your own arrows. They fly really clean. They're way less expensive because people step on arrows. No matter what, you're going to have arrows that are broken. You're also going to lose arrows. If you've ever been out at night and you've had to fire arrows off into the dark at somebody, have fun trying to get that back. Unless you've done what some people do, which is actually put a small LED on the backside of the foam, so only the person firing it can see it. It's almost like a tracer. And on contact, it sets the circuit. So once it lands, you can actually see, oh, it's over there on the ground. And some LARPs will be totally cool with that and be like, yeah, whatever, you're just retrieving your property. Other ones would be like, nope, you fired it. And realism says, if you can't find your arrow, tough luck, Charlie, because that arrow's gone. So it goes both ways. So you can spend way less money, make your own arrows. I think it still comes out to be something like $3-4 an arrow minimally. I mean, if you have to go and buy your fletching yourself, which is the feather part, if you have to buy that yourself, you're still looking at close to $10. So it's not going to be cheap. If you go to Dunham's, Walmart, Gander Mountain, something of that nature, you can get them on the off season, which is the winter, for, I don't know, maybe $7 an arrow. So it's not cheap by any means. There are glow-in-the-dark arrows, or the tips, and I can't remember who it was who produces them. I know we sell them. LARPing.org actually has them on the shop. Yeah. Those are awesome. Some LARPs actually say, okay, if it's glowing, it has to be considered like a fire arrow or a silver arrow or something like that, in which case, okay, cool. You better go get that skill, because if not, you're going to lose your arrows. But, so that's the cost part of it. If we look at safety, there's no doubt. When you're looking at them side by side, spell packets aren't going to shift in the air slightly and catch someone in the head, or someone bats one down. I've seen people physically catch arrows being fired at somebody or bat them down with a weapon. What happens is it deflects it sideways or in another direction. Someone who isn't looking for it gets hit by it. that can't be fun. I mean, some people get really angry about that kind of thing. So also, if you fall on one, it's pointed up, it can poke you, and it's not fun. But I think when we go to the biggest argument, which is immersion and use, I have to disagree totally with Dave, because
okay, next topic.
like I have to say, like, if I'm firing an arrow, like I know people, and I got to throw a shout out to Matt, and I can't remember Matt's last name. He's a Kanar player. He ridiculously high level archer, fires like, I mean, the guy, what's that? Nichols. Matt Nichols. I hope you see this, because you're the man. I've seen this guy, like, amongst huge battles, be out in the woods totally solo, and an arrow will just come out of the weeds and just boom, and like the whatever it is that he shot at, it's dead. Like, just amazing. And this guy, out of game, is also an archer and makes his own bows. So he's a legitimately great archer.
We get it.
But the when you get someone who's that good, they start to be able to actually do that at speed. And I've seen guys like him, just as fast as a person can act with their spell packet, he can fire off arrows. And they fly great, and he knows what he's doing with them. So I think there's a certain level of experience that's needed there, in the same way that, if you suck with a boffer sword, you're going to get your butt kicked, no matter if you're high level or not. If you can't strike and you can't swing and you can't block, any of that stuff, you're not going to have any skill with it. So I think there's that level as well that has to be discussed and talked about. So, but no matter whatever your LARP does, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what we prefer.
There is. We're just not going to say it.
Well,
Let me ask you this, just like taking 2 minutes to think about this, because I don't want to derail us from our next portion of conversation. But as far as, and this maybe just goes to the question of simulationism just in general. I'm just wondering, what's your take on simulating just in general, just harder things? I mean, my real problem with packets, honestly, and probably this is going to sound horribly off the track from what I was saying earlier, but my preference would probably be to see arrows shot, honestly. Yeah. I would never want to use them, because I feel like the disadvantage is pretty high. But I would probably rather be shot by them, and I'd rather see those flying. But how is there a lot of gosh, how do I say this? You can't. Some games try to pick locks, for example, and sometimes there's no simulation. They put a real lock, and someone uses something really to pick it. Right. Most of the time, what I've seen is, because modern day tumblers are way out of the league what they used back then. A lot of times they'll use those cheap luggage bag locks or things like that, which in my opinion are horrible, because even ancient locks weren't that bad.
Right.
So, I've seen mechanics and game. I've seen you have the range of simulation from actually doing it to something that's kind of like a mini game almost.
Gotcha. So it's like a roll of a dice or something of that nature in order to make it happen.
I walk up and I count to 25, and then I, whatever I was doing. So in this particular case, I feel like the simulation of throwing a packet doesn't really take, that much away from the game, which is why I feel like it's, there's not really much lost there. It sounds like you are more on the end where it's like, it's not as good a simulation.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's something. I mean, anyone can. I mean, and nothing, not to take away from anybody who does this, but it's a lot easier for me to stand there with a foam piece of PVC and go and throw something, and I can throw it 10 feet or 15 feet, and there's nothing. And there's a whole nother step over, which is people who I've seen sitting on a log 15 feet in the air with a real bow, firing through a group of trees and hitting someone 40 feet away, and calling damage as this thing glides through the air, which is just unbelievably impressive to watch happen. I think there's such a huge disconnect there. I mean, I guess yelling damage as it flies through the air doesn't exactly help immersion either. But
that's one of my biggest problems with bows and arrows just in general. I'd never use one in game anyways, probably, because if you're 40 feet away, man, a lot of times you just don't know what's on that arrow.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and what's kind of funny is I've actually seen people with all sorts of projectiles. Javelins. Javelins are not as bad because usually javelins are just something like a loose piece of pool foam. It doesn't fly very well, but it's safe enough you can throw it at somebody. And I've seen rocks. And there's actually a story at Kennar where I guess a guy had just leveled up like throwing rock, like for years. And he actually had a kill shot with a rock. If he hit you with a rock, it counted as a kill because he was so good with that rock. He just hit you square in the temple, So yeah, I guess there's this big line fight, and he just threw this rock Hail Mary into this group of guys, and just as it's falling, death strike, hit some guy. Oh, he's dead. So, there's that level. It's like, yeah, he threw the rock really far and it hit a guy. Cool. But also, it was a tennis ball, and it got thrown 40 feet, and he yelled, "You're dead," as it flew through the air. Like you can only do so much, and you have to represent damage in some way.
Yeah.
So I understand it, but I personally feel that with a lot of things, if you can't represent it with physically doing something like, I hit you really hard, that counts for 6 damage, but if I tap you, it only counts as 3. Well, then you have the issue of well, how hard did I think you hit compared to how hard you think you swung? So it's hard to represent those things. With lock picking, it's a little easier, I think, because, if you can actually pick the lock, awesome. And if you can't, but then also takes away from people who have no idea about locksmithing, and they're never going to pick any lock, no matter if you gave them training or not.
Yeah, my personal opinion on that is that I think you're better in that case with a middle ground simulation that's more of a mini game. I've come up with a couple of concepts that I just think are better than really lock picking and counting, which I think just sucks.
Counting is no good. It works for healing, it works for buffs, it works for all sorts of things like that. But a skill like that,
stood there long enough so I get to do it. That doesn't seem.
Yeah.
We should do calls sometime. We should talk calls sometime.
We should take calls.
Not today. Not today. There's too much to say on that one. So
yeah, I would love to have people come in and actually give us a call and tell us about what they think, and we might actually have that set up. Maybe we'll announce.
That'd be awesome! Take calls in.
Yeah,
oh my God,
I'm thinking maybe we should set something up that people we can announce what our discussion is about previous and what the question is, and then we can have people call in before the show, and then we can air them during our show, and we can discuss them.
That would be awesome.
I like that idea.
Okay.
Basically, we're okay. That's happening.
Okay, cool.
Next, the LARP show. That's going down. Okay, so we obviously have 2 different sides. Leave comments in the video below, or in the area below the video. Yeah, you know how that goes. And tell us what you think. We want to hear from you guys on what on what your thoughts are. Obviously, check out the article, larping.org, for more information.
Which we'll post below. Also, if you get a video response, do that too.
Absolutely.
Nothing better than trailing on the conversation with a real person in front of a camera. So.
Absolutely. So, the next thing we're going to be talking about is probably one of the things I'm most excited to talk about, which is the Conquest of Mythidia. I'm super, super jazzed about this, and I'm not going to be able to go, and I really, really want to. And we've got so many people in Europe that are like, haha, we're going, and I'm over here crying that I can't. So, have you guys seen this trailer?
I was actually gonna watch it just a second ago, but how long is it?
A couple minutes.
Don't
but
watch
it's
it right now.
Okay, you guys talk about it for a second. I'm gonna mute myself.
I mean, I've seen them. They put them out every year. They're incredible. I mean, the Conquest guys. Let's just be honest. They know what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
They, I mean, it's, it's not just like the LARP looks incredible. I mean, they also do a really good job with videography, planning it out. I mean, they make LARP look good. I mean, and it doesn't hurt that they have, 7,000 or 8,000 people at the event. There's a mini town. I mean, there's
unbelievable.
Every kind of experience you can have. I mean, and just looking in the video, something that struck me that I'd noticed before, but I didn't really hadn't really thought about was just how many different types of camps, races, people are all interacting in this world in kind of a really beautiful, harmonious way that I think is really awesome. it's kind of awe-inspiring to see. I think there was like a scene where people are kind of like in kind of like a primitive camping type situation, and they're like,
maybe you'll have some B-roll over while you guys are talking. Maybe we'll have this playing. So
yeah. And I just was kind of taken aback thinking about, most LARPs you go to, you have a few people that are from like different races, maybe a handful of, you always have a handful of elves, that kind of thing. But I mean, these people, like at Conquest, you don't just have like different races, you have also like different clans and different like, they're really
value is unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the other things to talk about, and I think we've discussed this previously in other things, whether it be the LARP group or here at the LARP show, I think we might have mentioned it previously, or we have articles all over the place about this. When you want to look at the apex of costume, garb, combat style, just kind of, I wouldn't say realism, but immersion, you're not going to get anything better than the Drakenfest Conquest of Mythodia stuff. I mean, they are just head and shoulders above everything that we're seeing in the U.S. right now. And it's not to take away from anything in the U.S., just when you get 4,000 to 7,000 people, and I know that we've got things like, what's the big event they have? Actually, I think it's went on last week, which was the Dagahir event. Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a couple thousand people at that as well. That's a huge thing, and they've got all the meta game, not meta game stuff, but I mean mini game stuff where it's like they had an assassins versus nobility thing where you could like, the assassins were trying to kill the nobility or the VIPs, and that stuff's amazing. And then Conquest just seems to take it to the next level, and they've got different camps. And then we had a discussion at the LARP group about getting mugged on your way back from a camp, and like there's alcohol consumption at these events, so you got an actual drunk guy in his character trying to walk back to his tent, and he gets mugged by another person in character for in-character gold. Like, wow, like let's take this to the next level, and then the role playing that happens because everyone's still in that zone, and that's unbelievable. If you look for role playing, and unfortunately it's only a week long, we can't, I don't think they could do it every single month like this, but just unbelievable costumes, unbelievable immersion. I can't wait to get out there. I'm really looking forward to it.
I can't wait for us to do it.
Yeah. We could go down that road, but I don't think we've prepared anything. But keep in mind, Americans. Keep in mind, Americans. It's not just in Europe. Stuff's happening. Stuff's happening.
A land near you.
That storm is brewing.
Oh man. Yeah. So, I think one of the things that I would like to know, hopefully we can chat with those guys sometime real soon, is just like, how do you get 7,000 people to participate in that high a level of immersion? And I realize it's been going on for years and years and years, and like, so it just kind of builds up the culture. But you also have to imagine that there's new people every single year. I mean, you can't have an event of 7,000 people and not attract a ton of new people.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's just impressive that there is no one in jeans. No one. I mean, obviously they're not going to show us shots of people looking terrible, but at the same time, like, I've looked through, more pictures than I should have of Conquest events, and
I'm right there with you.
Not in a great costume ever.
Yeah.
So
it's unbelievable to see how many people, just like the walkthroughs of the merchants areas. It's just like, oh my gosh, just it's hard to believe that there's that many people. And in the U.S., I guess maybe it's different in Europe. And I can't wait to get some of our European friends on the show, but we don't see that that dense of a population of people who are into LARP in the U.S. So seeing that many people who love the same thing you do, powerful stuff.
Conquest of Mythodia is putting Renaissance fairs in the U.S. to shame.
Oh yeah,
it's putting like, what is that? SCA groups to shame.
Ooh, that's a dangerous statement. Because you gotta figure that's some fighting words. Because you're figuring they're going 15,000 people, and every single one of them in a period tent.
I don't know, man. Not when you're dealing with real. I don't know.
Fighting words.
I'm still. I think I'm behind. Honestly, this is a personal opinion, okay? But I like Beacoline better than I like Mythodia personally. I like the look better. I like the idea of a permanent town that they own the land. I mean, obviously there's
That
things
is a really awesome setup.
yeah.
Like,
So
not to take
that's what
anything
I
away
have.
from Conquest. Nothing
Yeah,
to take
no,
away from
sure,
Conquest.
sure. But that's kind of more the camp that I'm at. But yeah, I think both Beakeling and Conquest of Mythodia, Drachenfest, although I think Drachenfest is way higher fantasy
Mhm.
than what you see at Conquest of Mythodia.
It seems
it's kind
that
of
way.
bizarre. It's almost bizarre how much magic is in Drachenfest. But I really do think that these guys give SCA and definitely Ren Fairs.
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
to good Ren Fairs personally.
We got to
I mean,
figure SCA though is also all historical. So
yeah.
so what they're doing is very straightforward. Of I'm picking a time period. I'm picking an armor style. I'm picking a weapon that was within that time period or the fighting style, and that's what I'm going with. Whereas with LARP, because I mean a lot of people do not consider SCA a LARP. Some of them consider it reenactment or whatever it happened to be. Call it what you want.
Fictional reenactment.
It's fictional reenactment. Like, obviously you're not reenacting an actual king. So I'm just going to throw it into the LARP category. I know I'm going to get some crap for that later. I understand. Send me an email, tom@larping.org. Send me all the hate you want. I'm bring it on. Actually, don't bring it on. Just let me know. But the point being, it's a lot different when you start talking about actual LARPs that have fantasy and magical stuff. And when you add that level of magic, of course things are going to go crazy. When you start having fairy wings and dragon tails and horns and all sorts of stuff, you completely are on a different world than I'm wearing a 15th century Gothic cuirass with, these are gauntlets from the same era. That's a whole different direction. So
yeah, it's a totally different thing, and I think, obviously as far as numbers go, I mean, there's huge SCA events, but I think, I think as far as jumping into a character and jumping into I think what's cool for me, what's cool about Conquest versus SCA, since you guys brought it up, I don't want to bash any SCAers because that's not the deal, but just being able to jump into a character, play that character, and then being part of a culture, and then that culture is part of a race, part of this bigger event that's taking place at Conquest. That is really cool and something that you can't experience really anywhere else. Not on that level. Not on that level.
Right. So, shout out to Penzic. You guys are awesome out there.
Yeah,
Cooper's
totally.
Lake area. That unbelievable. 15,000 people is just. I think that's what the numbers was. I might be incorrect, but I know the number is something astronomical, and I've seen the aerial photography stuff of that camp. Unbelievable.
It's ridiculously awesome.
But to jump back to our actual subject, which is the Conquest of Mythodia, we are super excited. We'd like to say best of luck to you guys, and we can't wait to see the photos from this year and what we've been seeing growth over this last year in the LARP community. Maybe you guys can break that 10,000 mark. Who knows? It'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. And we'll have lots of coverage on it on the site. I mean, our very own Crow LARPer, Ivan Zalak, has told us that he's going to be bringing back pictures and full reports on how it goes. So definitely look forward to lots of coverage from us.
Yeah, Zalak is the man. If you have not checked out Crow LARPer, do that.
Yeah.
He is an awesome guy, and no doubt he'll be watching this. You are the man. So, okay. So, we've talked about that, and and there's no doubt that people who go to Conquest at one point may have been tabletop gamers. And the next thing, and I know that Dave's all excited here. Dave is getting all geeked. Look at this Dave face. Oh my goodness, it's the Dave face. Dave's getting all excited because we're going to be talking about why tabletop gamers should be immigrating or migrating or phasing or teleporting to LARPs, and why they should be joining in. And I've always had this discussion with people, and I have tons of friends who go and do tabletop on Wednesday nights or Thursday nights, and then they LARP on the weekends. So I'm interested in what these guys have to think. So Dave, kind of talk to us about your thoughts on this and why this sparks your interest so much.
So I'll tell you a personal story. In college, college is where I started just role-playing games in general. and I obviously started with nobody. Most people don't just start with LARP. At least that's been my experience. Most people they at least play video games, something like that, some kind of middle ground, or they have a background in acting as it is, something like that. But I just started playing role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, things like that. And a couple of semesters in, I'd already experienced LARP before college. I'd seen people do it. I'd been around it. A little bit of participation. I'd seen. There was a video. I can't remember if it's still on, but there was a video game show called X Play.
Yeah, X Play. It's not on anymore.
No,
Yeah.
they had an episode where they featured LARP on it once, and it was really funny because it was like in the winter in Montana somewhere or something like this. But I just remember very distinctly an orc running around in a San Francisco Giants or San Francisco 49ers like winter coat with orc ears.
Let's just quick note. If you're that guy and you're watching this, I'm sorry. So that's now like just etched into the memory. Memory.
Fox Poss.
Yeah.
So
you messed up, man.
Yeah. So I'd
up.
experienced it prior to this moment, but I remember talking with a good friend of mine who had actually got me into tabletop role-playing games. His name's Tom. He's a genius dude. I think if he's watching this, he would know that we all thought he was
Toms are always geniuses.
Yeah. He was a very good dude.
Yeah, he's a good dude, nerdy guy for sure. And I remember once we were just talking in passing, and I remember, he ran games. I ran games for him as a DM and whatever. And I remember saying, would you ever do a LARP? I mean, would you ever go to a LARP and dress up and fight and do the whole 9 yards? And very seriously, Tom was like, never. I would never do that. And I remember being like,
too much self-pride or something.
I was like, really? Why? Like, what? I mean, what could you possibly have against it that you don't already do at the table, like in whatever? And I remember very simply, he looks at me and he says, I'm not that big of a dork.
Oh.
And I was like, what?
Oh,
this guy?
no.
I was like, Tom, no way. Absolutely no way.
No,
And
shakes head in shame.
it was hilarious because he was that big of a dork. He definitely was.
Just denial.
But yes, it was
Total
a hard
denial.
denial. But and I think that's honestly the biggest hindrance to people is a perception that it's nerdier than the activity they already consider uber nerdy.
Yeah.
And the fact is, that couldn't be less. That couldn't be more false on account that it takes actual exercise. You're running around outside.
You actually do have to be outside. Yeah.
You're not just sitting around on your flabby ass the whole time. You got to get out there and truck a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't. I could not disagree more with that. Yeah, definitely not more.
So
nerdy.
did you go to a LARP? Did you find a LARP and then go to it, or you just kind of like decide one day, hey, there's a LARP over here I'm aware of that you went to? Like, how did you transition to make that? Because obviously Tom wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna take you to this.
Well, that's all. That's kind of a long story that would take far too long to get to. I think what it came down to was, I think for him, it just, maybe possibly part of it was that he just didn't conceive of being able to do more story-wise in a LARP than he could at the table describing actions. I wonder if his problem was, am I going to be able to actually get into this? Am I actually going to be able to see a fantasy world around me when I see people's Hyundais parked in the parking lot?
Right.
I think that was kind of a, I think that was part of it. I didn't LARP in college, but I had like hung out with high school friends and like kind of put together our own things. So and in particular, I remember when the Star Wars movies were coming out, we all bought lightsabers and wore hooded jackets and pretended to be Sith Lords and hit each other with plastic lightsabers. But it was a real game, and we had rules and characters and all this. It was ridiculous.
There you go. That was the first LARP ever did.
That was the first LARP. But yeah, I think, and going back to the point why people should be converting or migrating from tabletop role-playing games, is because honestly, I think it is the way of the future in so far as like role-playing and group pretending activities go. I honestly, I don't think there's really a real way to beat it. I don't. The indie scene, the indie game developers, as far as tabletop role-playing games, is flourishing a lot. But what we can see mainstream now, like Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, is really, I would almost go so far as to say it's kind of kicked the bucket. It's coming out 5th edition, only like 17 months, 18 months, or something like that from its conversion out of 4th edition, maybe 2 years. It's not had a good track record, and what's really interesting is that the games that are really making huge headways right now on tabletop are really just mimicking older versions of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, exactly.
Retro clones, or they call it like the Renaissance. The old school Renaissance is redeveloping new ways to play old games.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
We're not really making a lot of progress going forward in tabletop role-playing games, aside from the indie community, which is, like I said, very indie, and a lot of them, it's indie for a reason. It's not mainstream because the games are not as
easily, widely accepted or understood. Yeah, gotcha.
And I think I'm sorry. I was going to say that the future of LARP is that I think the future of LARP is going to be more inclusive than the future of tabletop role-playing games, because you're not just getting people from the role-playing community. You're getting people from all walks of life, and that simply doesn't happen in tabletop role-playing games. Right.
Well,
for the most part.
I think something to really bring up, and I had this discussion with Erica the other day, which was, with game designers, and working in the game industry for as long as I have, basically it goes game designers are working in the world of programming mechanics and developing a game that's based on programming mechanics. And then once that's taken care of, you understand what usability and function you're allowing, or it can go the opposite direction. But basically what you're coming down to is it's programming. With LARP, it's not programming, it's social engineering. So you're basically stepping into it and saying, how am I going to affect human beings? How am I going to be interacting with other people? And how am I going to direct them or guide them into a story or direction that I'd like? And you can do that a little bit as a DM when you're playing a tabletop. But when you step out onto a field and somebody dies and you see somebody else who plays with that person and they get upset because their buddy just died, they got sadness, fear, horror, whatever it happens to be. There's that acting element, or sometimes it's not acting. Sometimes we had our big event this last weekend, and a group of us got separated from our larger group, and we were told everyone was dead. And we're talking 40 to 50 people that we were with, and there's 7 of us. And then we got back to town, and they said everybody's dead. Wow. Like, I could have tried to act horrified or not horrified, but the fact was I was about as scared right then as you can get when it comes to playing a game, because I just realized there's 150 orcs on that field that are killing the 7 of us elves that are still standing. So you're not going to get, you might get that same feeling on a tabletop, but the difference between a tabletop is you're looking down at a table and imagining standing there in front of 100 orcs, or you could actually be standing in the woods with 3 torches behind you, looking into a dark where you see glinting of 100 people about to come in and whoop your butt. That's a totally different thing. And I think, like Dave said, it's actors, it's people who are into fencing, people who possibly were into SCA, people who are into historical reenactment, sci-fi. There's all sorts of LARPs. So it's basically anything you might be into there, but there's probably a LARP for it out there. So, tabletops don't always capture that as well. And that kind of opens up the world for people who just do tabletops to try it out. It's a lot more addicting than I think you realize.
Jordan, what do you think?
Oh man, my mind's kind of gone all over the place. I'm really focusing on like the why of why they should move. So like, why should they move? And the first thing that comes up is in my mind is like, what are some things that keep them from doing it? Like, and so for you, like you said, Tom said, no way am I that big of a nerd. I think that is a big thing. Like, I know a lot of my friends over the last, however long, you explain to them, yeah, this is LARP, this is what it is, and they're like, oh yeah, I saw some of you guys in a park once, pretty nerdy,
Yeah.
I think that, so I actually been thinking a lot about this, and I'm gonna write a post about it, but I think that there's a certain level of immaturity that says, I can't pretend. It says that pretending and make-believe is for little people. Like, it's for kids. That's a children's thing. And I think that that comes from a place of, honestly, a place of a bit of insecurity that says, I can't do that. And so I would say that, like, it's not an immature thing to pretend and to participate in a LARP. I think it's actually a very freeing experience to place yourself in a character, in somebody else's shoes, and do that. And so tabletop role players, you already have that experience on a small level, and it's a much more fulfilling experience to do it for an entire weekend than it is for one weeknight with Mountain Dew and Cheetos.
Yeah, and I think also what's funny is the stereotype thing. And Jordan, I have to pick on you in this case because so many people think of the stereotype guy. What most of you probably don't know is Jordan went to college on a sports scholarship. If he wasn't so much of a nerd, you'd probably think he was a jock.
Yeah. It's true.
True story.
It's true.
So, and if you ever see Jordan, he's a big guy. You could crush me with like one hand. So, no jokes.
I did go to college to throw men around, so.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to say that for. I went to college to throw men around. Really? True. It's a true story though. Wrestling scholarship. Where did you go?
Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
And I have tons of other friends who've gone. I mean, guys in the Army, guys in the Marines. I've got some other just absolutely monstrous sports fans who are outside of LARP and tabletop and some other things I do. They're just normal dudes who love to go, I wouldn't say normal dudes in the sense of normal people like sports.
Yeah.
I like soccer and ping pong. So.
Yeah, I think that, like, as far as the as far as the stereotypes go, I think that there is something to be said about, Dave brought up the physicality of LARP. And that, I think they were talking about fantasy boffer LARPs. Obviously, lots of other different kinds of LARPs that are not going to be as physical. But I think that once that first time when you go and I think a lot of my friends that aren't, do not play tabletop. They are not interested at all, and I tell them about it. They're like, people that are my friends, I've not had one person that's like, no way in hell would I go do that. Mm-hmm. Because everyone thinks that it's cool to go and be in a mock battle. That's awesome. We all did it when we were boys, and we all want to do it when we're grown men and slap each other around with foam swords, right? Like, that's basically the response I get every time. And I'm like, well, it's a little bit more than that. And I think that once you have that first taste of this is role-playing, you're like, oh, okay, this is not that nerdy. I'm just I'm here, I'm surrounded by all these other people that are doing it. It's like if you're playing football by yourself and you're throwing a football on a football field and you're running to catch the ball by yourself.
It's going to be the same kind of thing. Like, why is that weird guy throwing a football and then running and catching the football and then acting like he's juking people out,
Yeah. If you're the lone LARPer in the park fighting the air, or there's just 2 of you, it's weird. But when there's 30 or 40 of you for a weekend, you forget, and it doesn't matter. And like the other thing is like, since when are we letting culture tell us, hey, that's too nerdy, you can't be a part of that?
Oh yeah,
I think that's the big thing for me. Is like, why are we letting people decide that for us?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think I was going to say that that I think one of the big things is that I'll give you another example. So that day when I was watching that episode of X Play where they were showing the guy running the LARP on television or whatever, my grandma happened to be in the room and she said, "What are these grown men doing?" And you know, her perspective on it was that this was a childish thing to be doing, something that
perhaps that's a cultural thing.
Yeah, and that they should be ashamed of pretending or whatever. And C.S. Lewis actually has a really interesting quote in this. He says, "When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and desire to be very grown up." And you know, I kind of agree on that. That
absolutely.
That quote actually comes from a bigger section of a book where he's talking about how some people are very proud of how grown up and mature they are.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's not that growing up is bad. Being a grown up is a good thing. It's the idea of making grown upness a quality that is more than descriptive. It becomes something like a virtue, like acting grown up is when it becomes something virtuous. And I just feel like you can have maturity but still have you can still have a desire to interact and engage you know, that really special place in your that's a part of you, the imagination, the idea of pretending in a group, the idea of experiencing things that you wouldn't otherwise experience. It's not that the experiences themselves are unique, because everybody overcomes adversity, everybody deals with physical challenges, personal challenges, emotional, mental, relational challenges, but it's being able to do it in a I don't know, in a surreal way that produces this amazing quality experience. And I don't think anybody should be ashamed of wanting to pursue something like that. What's the difference between that and getting really involved in a movie or really involved in a book that you love?
Or fantasy football?
we can go there. We've got a minute and a half left before we hit our time here. But
here's the thing that I would say.
yeah.
The last thing that I would say is, and I'll probably you know, some RPG blogs get a hold of this. They'll probably slay me. But LARP's more fun than tabletop. Let's be honest. Swinging a sword is more fun than rolling some dice to do it. The end.
I'm gonna have to say I agree. I'm gonna man down.
I went there.
I'm gonna have to say I enjoy it more. I do enjoy it more. I can't change that fact. I enjoy being out in the woods at night, running for my life from what I perceive to be an ogre, way more than sitting on a table with a can of Mountain Dew in my hand. Nothing to say can of Mountain Dew in your hand at night isn't a bad thing. Just
it's a great thing, actually.
It's not bad at all.
Maybe just a final thought on this. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and I know a lot of times one big thing to overcome is the physical ability to do it. And I will say this: there are many LARP documentaries that, in my opinion, a giant leap of courage. People in wheelchairs get out there.
Absolutely.
And that is something I find awesome. And I
unbelievably inspiring.
And humbly respect somebody who can do that. So if you're ever like, well, I don't feel like I can run very fast. I don't feel like there's people out there who can't run. They get out there and they do this amazing thing. So I don't think people should be limited by what they think they can or can't physically do.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yep. I have two very good friends who LARP. One of them is a disabled gentleman. I won't throw any name out. But Tim, you know who you are, man. You are a complete inspiration to us. And Tim is another guy who gets out there, and he might not be able to whoop anybody out there on the field, but you know what? He gets out there and he has a heck of a good time, and he role plays almost better than anybody else out there. And seeing people out there, yeah, okay, yeah, you're overweight. Oh, you're underweight. Oh, you've got a bum knee. Oh, you got a bum back. Go out and have fun. Don't care about it. Do what you can. Be comfortable. Explore the world that doesn't exist in a fantasy environment like that with people who are enjoying it with you, and nobody's going to be out there to judge you. That's
or
just
embrace
not what
your
it is.
frailty.
Embrace it.
Your frailty. Get out there and play a character who has to deal with the same frailty that you do. And
Absolutely. Yeah. I saw a quote the other day that was really great, which was, "Am I becoming more like my character, or is my character becoming more like me?" And I think that that says a lot about the opportunities we have to learn about ourselves in a role play environment.
Right on. Final word. Done.
Final word. Go check out Comic-Con fundraiser for LARPing.org. This is a huge opportunity. LARP to be represented at Comic-Con 2013 in San Diego. Our panel is on the 21st of July.
Yep.
We will post the room number for those of you who are going to be there. We're going to be recording it. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of news coming out of Comic-Con. So don't miss an opportunity, or please don't miss an opportunity. When we're humbly requesting that you help us out, get this taken care of so we can get out there. It's a huge task for us to be able to raise this money, and we cannot do it without you. In the end, you are only as strong as the people around you who can support you, and what you can do out of your own gung-ho. And right now we got to come to you guys to help us out, because our gung-ho is not enough. So your kung fu is better than our kung fu.
Yep.
And by kung fu we mean dollars.
Thank you.
So
Right on. Well,
yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you for watching this episode of LARP Show. This is technically, I believe, our first official episode. We did one before, but this is the kind of format we'll probably be doing. We might throw some things in if we've got some more content produced before the show goes live. So here we go. So Dave, Jordan, and myself, let's say thank you and Godspeed.
Thanks, guys.